when things are temporary, right? So typically it's a 3-month contract. So when you know something is only 3 months, it's way easier to power through and to get through and to put up with things that you would never do if you worked at a place full time, right? You can see an end in sight. So it's like, okay, I just have to get through this for 3 months. And that was kind of what I was thinking last night of like, this is my last time, this is my last time, this is my last time. And it helped me.
Welcome back to the Freedom and Scrubs podcast. We're your hosts, Kim and Erran G. This is episode 32, and in this episode, we are going to talk about the 5 unexpected lessons that we have learned through traveling for the past 8 years.
So I'm really excited about this episode because we're talking about lessons we've learned over the last 8 years that we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
That were things that we've learned and we grew from.
And almost what we found out in hindsight.
Exactly. It's like reflecting back, we're like, wow, like we've learned so much. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to share 5 of those things with you. And it kind of piggybacks on what we're going to be doing next week.
Or foreshadows.
Foreshadows, not piggyback.
Yeah.
Right? Because piggyback would be it already happened.
Already happened.
Okay. So it's foreshadowing next week. So we're about to launch Traveler School again on February
7th, 8th, 9th.
I don't know. So
February 9th.
February 9th. And for those of you who don't know, if you're a healthcare traveler, we have a course for healthcare travelers. And it's a 7-module course. And it basically walks you through, step by step, everything that there is to know about the industry and how to set yourself up for success as a traveler. We put everything all in one place so it's super easy to learn the things. So we're going to be launching that. And leading up to that launch, we're going to kick it off with a 2-part free training series where we're going to share 5
of the biggest mistakes travelers make.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
These are things that are going to be kind of more logistical and things that we did back in the day in 2012 when we started traveling and the costly mistakes that we made and time, money, all of that stuff. So we're going to dive into that. So if you want to sign up for that, we'll put a link in the show notes. And when you sign up, we'll email you the details of how you can join us live for the free training.
Yeah.
And it's totally free. So whether you decide to move on and enroll in Traveler School or not, you'll still get tons of value and learn a lot just from the training that we're
going to be a lot of fun. And what I love about the training is it's kind of one of our new ways. And it's really my favorite way because we've done it all the time. We do it in like a pop-up Facebook group. So everybody in that group is there for the same purpose of that training. Yeah. And so it's a really... you're in the audience with a like-minded audience, right? Yeah. So everybody's in it for that.
People who are excited and are either newer to traveling or want to start traveling but haven't yet. So you're surrounded by like-minded travel friends.
Yeah.
So it's one of our favorite ways to do it. So head over to the show notes, grab the link, sign up, and we'll send you the details.
And all the details.
Okay. So can we just talk about last night for a second?
Well, should we back it up a little bit?
Okay.
So today is Super Bowl Sunday.
At the time of this recording.
At the time of this recording. And it's 1:52, and the game starts at 3:30 Pacific time, right? So I am itching, basically.
Basically, we're getting the podcast done, so we don't have to come home tomorrow and do it, which has been our routine after work. Mm-hmm. And once we're done, I'm setting Erran loose. He can do all the Super Bowl things. I have some other stuff I want to do, and then I'm going to join him later. But, so last night was... my last night of call.
But it wasn't initially your last night of call.
So I wasn't... Okay, let's back it up.
Yeah.
So I've been working at the same place for almost 6 months. More than 6 months. 8 months? Holy crap. Okay. And I've taken call an average of like twice a month, 3 times a month in some situations. I have never once, not one time, gotten called in. Okay, so all of my stenographer friends or anybody who takes call can appreciate that of like, wow, like I've never been called in. It's been so easy. And this facility isn't a place that you do get called in all the time. It's hit or miss. So never been called in. I was off the call schedule. Okay, I was done. I had, 8 days left of work?
Yeah, 8 days of work.
I was completely done. So the girl that I work with on Saturdays ended up getting into a little bit of trouble, and she was off this weekend. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I had to not only work all alone yesterday, so 10 hours of just like nonstop being
which
by
you usually
myself.
have somebody else there.
Right, that's the thing. It's usually both of us. So it's we split everything.
It's double the load
easy.
now.
Yeah. And I had to pick up her call. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I made it through my shift. I'm like, okay, cool. I just have call. Hopefully it'll be a quiet night, which is funny because I knew. I was like, and I even put it on Instagram. I was like, who thinks I'm going to get called in tonight? And like,
oh yeah. I mean, it's 100%. Like you have to say, the girls that you work with were talking about the fact that you've never been called in, and they said if you get another night of call, you're going to get destroyed.
Oh yeah. Like I knew it. I put it out into the universe, and it was just kind of expected. It's like the call gods have been so good to me for the last 8 months. It was like I knew I was going to go out with a bang, but what I didn't expect was to be banged that hard, and not in a good way. Okay, right. Not in a good way. Like I got off work exhausted.
You did more patients on call than you did during your normal 10 hours of shift work, didn't you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, because I ended up I was busy yesterday. But a normal day, yes. But because I was alone, I was much busier. But I pulled in so excited, so starving, ready to come in, have dinner, sit down. I literally pull into my parking spot, get called in. So I'm like, crap, and we live 30 minutes away, so I had to drive all the way back. Did 2 patients, 2, came home, had dinner, which Erran, side note, prepared the most delicious dinner and cleaned the house.
Well, we'll get into that a little bit too. So it's the perfect storm.
Such a moment. And then, so I just felt like so grateful. Like, okay, I get to come home and just eat dinner. You've done everything. I have nothing I have to do. Finished like the last bite of my steak and got called back. So drove back to work. 2 patients. Again, this never freaking happens. Never happens. 2 patients. Do those, come back. Now it's like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, okay, I'm so exhausted. Can barely keep my eyes open. I basically have been going since 6 a.m. at this point. Crawl into bed, pass out, get called back at 4 a.m. Drive back and
come back at 6:30.
Yep, I got home at like 6, crawled back into bed. And it's just like, it was laughable because I think that has never happened in the history of calls at this hospital from all the sonographers I work with.
Yeah. And I think it's crazy because I was actually going to do an Instagram story last night because I was almost just thinking like, it's really not talked about a lot. I mean, it probably is, but just the fact of, I had dinner prepared for you at, when you came home at 6, right? It was like ready to go. So I had everything prepped, everything ready. You can come in, enjoy your dinner. Had the sweet potatoes going for an hour. They were perfect.
They were.
And like you pull in the parking lot before you even walk in the house, you're like, I got to go back to work. So then you drive back in. So you drove there 3 times last night, which is crazy. And so you didn't even come in until 11:30. So then I was planning my whole night of just like debriefing and getting ready for this podcast and like the launch and
the whole day went to shit, basically.
Okay. Well, and speaking of that, our poor little pug who turned 10 on Friday, I decided to go because she had to stay home all alone by herself on her birthday. And
because we were working.
Because we were working. Right. Well, yeah.
Well,
and
that's questionable.
So I felt like I couldn't walk in the door with empty-handed, so I went to Petco and I found these peanut butter molasses like cookies. Like it's a big birthday cookie. And so I thought she's never done well with those, but I thought, you know what? Like let her enjoy it. And then it was buy one, get one half off. So I found this other chew bone that I thought would be good. She basically destroyed both of them.
No, can I just paint the picture that Mimi is sitting in her bed, 2 bones in her bed, eyes like wide open, like she cannot believe this is happening to her. She gobbles up both bones in a matter of like 30 minutes.
It was a little
like
longer,
you would have thought it was like a lion and like an antelope. Like there was like blood all over her mouth, like it was crumbs. But like she was in the zone, like the happiest I've ever seen her.
Yeah.
And so she eats the cookies, And then the next day, basically has diarrhea.
So because I got called in, which rarely happens. I've been called in twice.
And it was your last day of call.
It was my last day of call. And so we had a long case. I came home, and she has never had an accident in the house in 10 years. Even as a puppy, she had one that we provoked. Like, we got her so excited that she had an accident. But other than that, she was fantastic.
Yeah.
We've been so blessed to have her be so good. But she had 5 diarrheas around the house and then was hiding in the corner with her big pug eyes bugging out. Her ears were back, and she was just like, I'm so sorry. I couldn't help it. But she even, like, what's sad about it is she tore down some of the blinds on our back patio trying to get out the door.
That just breaks my heart, is that she was trying to claw her way out so that she could go outside because she
Makes me sad.
I know, but you know what? I'm glad. I'm actually happy that she pooped all over the house, because for her to do that, she was not in a good place. Right. She's feeling much better today, but lesson learned: don't give your dog 2 peanut butter molasses freaking giant cookies.
If they can't handle it.
Daddy of the year.
It was.
All right. Let's get into
So it was a shitty day.
to say the least. All the way around.
Well, then she was dry heaving at 2 a.m, like up on her. Oh, yeah, it was bad. Anyway.
Okay, so with that being said, we only have 8 days left of work, and then we're officially done.
Going to New Zealand,
that was
baby.
like my mantra. I was just like, okay, this is my last day of call. This is my last Saturday that I'll have to do this. Like, just like stay focused. Like, you got this. Like, that was honestly the only thing that was getting me through.
Well, it didn't help that you look at me and you're like, I was closing my eyes on the way home. So then
I was
I'm
trying to get attention.
Concerned that I had to ride with you to work.
I was trying to get attention, and I secretly wanted you to drive me.
I know.
You did not take the bait.
I did not.
Dick. Okay, so let's get into the 5 things. And I feel like number 1 kind of goes into like what I just said about the mantra. But number 1 of the 5 unexpected lessons we've learned is that the most challenging assignments that we get are our greatest teachers. And what I mean by that is, remembering as a traveler that everywhere you go is temporary. And so when things are temporary, right? So typically it's a 3-month contract. So when you know something is only 3 months, it's way easier to power through and to get through and to put up with things that you would never do if you worked at a place full time, right? You can see an end in sight. So it's like, okay, I just have to get through this for 3 months. And that was kind of what I was thinking last night of like, this is my last time. This is my last time. This is my last time. And it helped me.
Well, and I even think because there's, different contracts, especially for like speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, a lot of times they'll do school years. But I think for the most part, what I'm saying is, if there's an end in sight, it makes it easier.
Exactly.
Right? Because when you're thinking, this is my life for the next 20 years until I move or do something else that seems dramatic.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. But when you know there's an end in sight, we've been here 8 months, and every time we've extended, it's like, okay, there's an end in sight. I can stay positive to whatever's going on.
I could not, and I say this, with first just saying that I love everybody I work with. I really do. This has been one of my favorite contracts because of the people, hands down. I would never, ever, ever work at this place full time.
Me neither.
The stuff that goes on there, if I was full time, I would be miserable, right? But knowing that, okay, it's temporary, I can get through. And so using that as a way to grow and to learn what we like to do, because we're all about, for those of you guys who know us or have been following us, like we're about using every opportunity to grow and to become better versions of ourselves. Period. End of story. Like, that's what life's about. We always want to be a better version of ourselves, and we want to keep pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves to reach new heights of who we are, right? And so I always look at it, we always look at it as, okay, what can I learn from this? Like, how can I show up to this assignment and use this quote unquote shitty situation as a way to grow as a person, to work on my confidence, to work on, speaking up. That's been a big thing of like speaking up when, it's not easy to. How can I work on that? So I'm always like, what can I work on for myself? So at least I could walk away from this contract feeling like that I've walked away with some kind of new tool, new thought, new mindset, new something that I can take with me and apply into other areas
for the next time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that mindset or that just change in perception can change your entire experience.
Well, and I think even saying that, like, because there's a lot of times that we talk about all this stuff, the mindset of just like, it's temporary, you should have this positive attitude. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to be triggered, or you're not going to have shitty days, or you're not going to be negative, or you're not going to fall into the trap of, you know, the misery loves company kind of thing. And so, like yesterday at that call that I went back to, I got triggered, and something triggered me majorly to where I actually threw something, which I never do. I didn't throw it at anybody.
Classic.
I threw it like in the trash can, like really hard, and like I pitched it. It was a hissy. Like I threw a hissy,
like an adult man hissy.
I felt myself getting very rageful, and it was a principle thing, right? Like it was the principality of the whole thing of like mediocrity, and why aren't we driving to be better? And I don't understand this, and blah 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 blah. And so, but then I caught myself, and I was like, wow, why was I so upset about that? And it can lead to a discussion, and it's great, but it's also one of those things where I wanted to check in with myself to wonder why I was so triggered. Not that the facility does this and this is the way they do it, and that just pisses me off. It's about me understanding that, like, why was I triggered by that?
Yeah.
And why did I react that way instead of in a helpful way? And so that's something that I'm reflecting and currently thinking about and trying to figure out.
I think that's such a good example of being like, we can't as travelers walk in expecting to make changes, right? That's probably not going to happen. You're not there to create change. You're there to fill a void, to work, to be helpful. So it's not about how can I change the hospital, but how can I change me? What can I learn? What can I work on for myself? Right? And so maybe that's being less judgmental of other people. That's a huge one for me. And the misery loves company. I think that's such an easy thing to fall into. And I find myself working on this every single day because people are so negative. And I think it's just, they're not even trying to be. They're not like a bunch of assholes. It's just the conversation flow is usually about griping, bitching, this, that. And it's just a constant flow of negativity. And it's easy to get into that when you're wanting to talk and be a part of things. And I find myself doing that. And it's like, I remember for myself to work on, okay, no, like I don't want to be a part of that conversation. How can I, I'm not like trying to be a creepy, like cheesy, smiling clown in the corner. Right?
Because nobody likes that.
No, and I also like, yeah, like you don't want to be that person who's like always trying to be like positive. It's like that's annoying too.
Because that's fake.
It's annoying, right? But it's just about being aware of that. And I don't want to bring myself down to that level just to be in a conversation when it doesn't feel good and it doesn't feel aligned with what kind of energy I want to be around.
Let me add this. This is what I just thought of. We pride our lives on trying to find the positive outlook on life in every situation that we have, right? I want to bring a positivity everywhere I go. That is naturally who I am, right? It's easy to not. It's easy to step back into it, just be miserable and just kind of fit in, right? It takes work to have a positive outlook on life. And so when you're in these contracts and negative things are happening, you don't want to lose any bit of yourself or the work that you've put into having that positive outlook.
Exactly.
Right?
So I think in a very, very roundabout, crazy way, the point is that using every contract, especially the challenging ones, especially the ones that feel hard, you looking at it from a different perception of like, cool, like, yeah, this sucks. I've got 3 months, but what can I do to have this be a growing experience for me personally? And what do I want to work on? Because
that's the only thing you can control.
Exactly.
Is you.
Exactly. Okay, number 2 is we wish that we would have known that there were a lot of things to learn about the industry and what we were getting ourselves into when it comes to recruiters, pay, all of that,
companies,
like logistical stuff,
interviews,
all of that. Because when we first started traveling in 2012, we personally did not know any other travelers. We didn't know of any Facebook groups. There was no community.
Well, Facebook really wasn't rocking and rolling when we started traveling. Yeah. It was just getting started.
And we weren't a big part of it.
Right.
And there was no course, right? And so I felt like there wasn't a lot of tools. And so we didn't, you only know what you know, and we didn't know anything. And I think the worst part is we didn't know that there were things to learn. And so because of that, naturally, we just jumped into it, which was fine at the time. That's what we needed to do. And we figured it out as we went. But as we figured things out, we were making tons of mistakes, costly mistakes, money mistakes, time mistakes. And so I would just, again, fast forwarding, I wish that we would have known, because it would have saved us years of headaches and trying to just grind it out and figure things out.
Well, and I think even on the unexpected lessons that we've learned, we never realized how much we would enjoy learning all of the things that go into this.
And then we become teachers of it, which
right.
is kind of funny.
And like, we just absorb so much because we realize, man, this is a dark hole that I don't feel like a lot of people have gone down. And we need to start digging our way through this to really figure this out. And it was super interesting, all the things that there are, all the gray areas, all the things that, like, it's so different from full-time work as it is in healthcare traveling. And a lot of people just think, oh, I do my profession and I just do it on the road.
Right.
That is so far from the truth.
Well,
and
you can do that.
You
That's
can.
what we did. But again, if you want it to be smooth, if you want to have
make the most money,
all of that, like taking some time to learn about our industry before you step out, or even if you're just beginning or you're a year in, like taking the time to learn about it, because once you do, then you're good to go and you can enjoy the rest of the experience. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we created Traveler School, is because we wish that we would have had that when we first started, of just like this container of support of, you know, somebody who's been there before us, walking us through, giving us the tools and the lessons and the tips and the tricks that would have helped us start off on the right foot from the beginning.
Right.
And so now there are tools like that. And so, anyways, I think that would have changed the game for us in the beginning. So.
Well, and then I think one thing that I've learned too because of this is you've taught me through traveling, asking questions, right? Just to anybody and everybody. So recruiters, facilities, doctors, and all the things like that. Like, I now ask tons of questions in public that I never would have asked, that I've learned so many things because I've asked them that I would have never learned if I didn't. And that's something that I've learned because you have to do it as a traveler.
Yeah. The more clear you feel, the more confident you feel.
Right.
Like, you have to have clarity around anything you're doing. I've always been a big question asker, and I love that. Like, I've helped push you to ask more questions because, like, you want to be clear. You want to be clear and understand, because then you feel more confident going into anything that you do. So, a great place to learn all those things, join the training we're going to be doing next week. Check out Traveler School. Check out our Facebook group. There's tons of resources now that will help support you so that you don't have to do it the hard way. Like,
exactly.
All right,
number three. You're going to learn so much professionally as a traveler. And I think that's something that Kim and I never, ever, I think we said it on the last podcast or maybe in one of our trainings or something, but I remember just having this conversation about that was never one of our goals is, like I would just want to learn so much about IR or about ultrasound, but it literally has been one of those things we've looked back on and been like, holy crap, we are so much better now than we ever would have been staying
100%.
full time.
And the funny part is, like, we thought we were awesome when we left our full-time jobs. And then not knowing how much we were going to learn as travelers. How much, like, because you get to work with so many different types of doctors, techs.
Do things differently.
Yeah, like, you really do. You get to be surrounded by all different types of ways of doing things. And so you learn so much. And I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was, like, amazing. And then, like, getting into some of these facilities, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I suck.
Well, there's been times that I would be in a case and I used to think I was, like, amazing. You know, I'm really good. Like, I have a good rapport with the doctors. I know my stuff. And these techs that I'd be, like, scrubbed in with, or they would be scrubbing with the physician, and they're, like, calling things out, and they know everything about what they're doing, like, to the nth degree. And I'm like, wow, I'm a very small puppy compared to these people. Like, and it's really cool.
And I think that, again, and just kind of like, we always say when people ask about what kind of experience you need to have as to be a traveler, it's important to have to feel confident in your skill set and to have a strong foundation. And that is one thing that we did. We had a very strong foundation. We were super confident in what we knew how to do. And that's important, but also know you don't have to know everything. There's no way to know everything. And to know that when you go into traveling, you are going to learn so much. That's just a part of the gig, you know?
100%.
Anyways, I wasn't expecting that one. I think it was pretty cool.
I know.
Okay, number 4. Traveling is obviously an external
adventure.
Experience and adventure
journey.
And all that. But it's been more of an internal journey. And what I mean by that is, as travelers, obviously we get to move around every couple of months. We get to live in such cool places in our country.
Have cool experiences.
And explore places and really dive in and get to see all kinds of cool stuff. That's why we started to travel. That's what we wanted. But what we didn't understand, or what we didn't see at the time, was that the journey that we would go on with ourselves, and it kind of just goes back to number 1.
Well, I think that's why I was saying that we talked a lot in number 1, because I looked down to number 4, and I was just like, oh boy, those go hand in hand with each other.
So they do go hand in hand, and it's about traveling. You are constantly living out of your comfort zone. You're making tons of decisions. You're always in places that aren't familiar to you. And when you're out of your comfort zone, you naturally have to show up, and you learn and you grow, and you figure things out. And that's such an opportunity to just, I don't know.
Well, I think for my part is, I realized that you cannot run from your issues. That they follow you everywhere you go. So it's like, oh, this facility is the problem. This flow is the problem. This coworker is the problem. It's not me at all. And then you travel 3,400 miles away from your hometown and you work in another facility, and guess what? Those people show up again. And so you have to choose to see the common denominator and start to improve yourself to not see those issues over and over again.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, number 5.
Okay, number 5 is this is a good one. Is that Kim and I realized after unexpectedly that we would never want to go full time as healthcare professionals, and it's mainly we got so addicted and realized how much we loved the freedom that we have doing the jobs that we do. Right? So we get to work when we want, take off when we want, and we talk about that all the time in the podcast. That's why it's freedom in scrubs, everything, because of how much that's the ultimate goal that we set out for, was to have freedom to do the things we love, but also get paid for doing what we're good at.
Right. And I think that's one thing that's completely opened our eyes, is because we have so much freedom, we can never imagine going back to a life where we don't. And, again, full time, you get 2 weeks off a year. You're
battling PTO, you're battling seniority PTOs.
Yeah. And you only get, you're in the grind all year long, and you look forward to these 2 weeks off. And so after experiencing that, and then experiencing the freedom of traveling and the time we've been able to have, I can never imagine going back to that kind of restriction ever again. And so this has really showed us how we want to live and what we are going to design our life around our time, around freedom, around doing work that we love. And that was something I don't think that we expected.
No.
Was A, that we would never go back full time, and B, that we really don't even want to be in healthcare.
Right.
That's not my passion in life at all.
Right. And I think that's and that's huge. And that gets into, it's not just cut and dry of we don't want to go full time anymore. That led to a lot of different discussions, because you can't just be we're not going full time. Well, you can't just settle in and work full time in a facility and still have this kind of freedom. So what does that mean for family life, for where we want to go with our life? All these things were adjusted during these 8 years of traveling to where we had this new focus of how can we make this life of freedom work exponentially throughout our lives.
Exactly. And I think traveling, again, just kind of to sum it all up, is that it opens you up to so many different things. Personally, professionally, and it allows you to explore different parts of yourself and different...
If you allow it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important. Like, you know, it depends on your mindset and perception. 100%. There's people that absolutely don't experience or feel any of the stuff that we're talking about. So it's about mindset and perception. But this is something that we're super passionate about because this journey has changed our lives in so many ways. And it has opened up doors that we never knew possible. It has allowed us to explore other passions and things that we love. Hello, this podcast. Hello, our YouTube channel. Our
Facebook group, our course.
Everything. Like, we fell in love with this idea of teaching and inspiring people and showing people what's possible. It's like, I never would have expected that I would be talking on a microphone, you know? It's like, the possibilities are endless when you open yourself up to the journey of it all.
Right.
And I think...
Yeah, because I also, you know, you have these conversations all the time where people will even go and travel overseas for fun, but they stay in 7-star, 5-star, I don't even think there is 7-star resorts, but it was getting my point of just like they try to bring their world to a new world. And I think that's the biggest thing is if you try to bring your facility and your experience at what you know, every facility you go to, you're completely missing out on the opportunity to grow and learn as a person, see different ways to do things, and really step out and be like, wow, maybe my way back then was completely off. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, traveling, again, you're always going to be living out of your comfort zone, period, end of story. It's a part of it. And so how you go through that will determine the experience you have and the growth that you'll have. And it's pretty gnarly. It is. Exciting, amazing adventure.
It is. It's really fun to look back on and see all the growth and all the things that you've learned that you just... Gosh. Yeah, it's awesome. It's one of our favorite conversations.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it at that because I feel like we have been going long.
Well, yeah, Mimi's been snoring.
Mimi's been snoring. But, I'm sleeping in the corner.
Well, I think it's one of those things where, like, she had a rough night last night, so the fact that she's sleeping, I feel bad about waking her up. But anyway, it's real life, people.
Poor thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we will leave it at that. If you want to check out our free training, go to the show notes and sign up, and we'll send you the details. And if you want to check out our course and you want to jump into that, go to kimandErran.com/T-School. And if you like the podcast, share this with a friend, leave us a review.
Yeah, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Bye.